Right, Tim here with Fit to the Core, and this is Coach Chris. Today for our exercise tip of the week, we're going to cover a squat. So we're going to show two common mistakes people make with squats, and then we're going to show some implements that we use, some strategies that we use to correct the squat pattern. So the first one we most commonly see is as he goes to squat down, he's going to cave his knees in, and he's going to put most of the weight into the arches of his foot. A lot of times what we're seeing here is we're just seeing no core engagement. We're seeing all the stress go to the knees, and he's getting a little bit too much of a forward lean into his lower back as well. Second compensation we'll see is, even if it is an ankle, because this could be two things, it could be ankle mobility, core stability, but here now, he's getting more hyperextended to his lower back, leaning forwards. Now we're getting the stress in the lower back. And he's still going to be pronating a little bit. Sometimes we will even see no knee drive and just hinging too much into a squat pattern here. So two issues here. We could have either, this could be a core stability issue, it could be an ankle mobility issue, or it could also be if he loses core stability, his hips and his ankles are going to free up. But some people just do have ankle mobility problems. So we solve the ankle mobility issue first by putting the heels up, so we kind of take the heels out of the equation. What we want to see here is we want him gripping the floor with his feet and spreading, driving his knees out into external rotation, his hips out into external rotation, opening those hips up. The kettlebell is helping to engage his core, so now we're getting a much cleaner pattern. So now we're getting the movement in the legs. We got good core stability, so we're connecting the whole chain. So now we're getting an actual great squat pattern, good ankle mobility, good hip mobility. We're actually working the muscles that we need to work during the squat pattern. So if we have someone who just is struggling with core engagement, we don't want to just load the squat pattern because we're going to set them up for failure. So what we want to do is keeping them grooving a good movement pattern so we eventually can start to load it up with a kettlebell. We're going to do a USB press out. So this is a good activation drill. He's smashing the bag, he's engaging his lats, he's getting his core engaged. We're getting good external rotation by gripping the ground with the feet and externally rotating, opening those hips up. So once we get good core stability, we can see how it opens his hips up, opens his ankles up. We'll get a nice clean squat pattern. So eventually we can start to load this pattern as they start to teach the body with this bag, basically just teaching him his nervous system how to squat correctly. So once we get the core engaged, hips, ankles, everything starts to open up so we can have a good clean squat pattern. And then we eventually move to the kettlebell. We start to load it up with, could be kettlebells, could be heavier sandbags, barbells, but the key here is getting them into a good squatting movement by turning the core on, making sure we have good ankle mobility, good core stability, good hip mobility. So that's our tip of the week squat pattern. So hopefully you find this useful and you can start to implement this within your own program.